Sorry to break it to you, Harshit, but it has happened. The first ever team to win 4 back-to-back Premier League titles, Manchester City.
Were they deserving enough of this? As Manchester United fan, I'll admit yes.
I mean,
the brand of football Manchester City have played, and I must compliment Arsenal also here. It's obviously woeful to see from a Manchester United perspective, history being rewritten in many ways.
Yeah.
I saw Manchester United in those days win the trophy 3 consecutive seasons, and even back in the day, it was a big thing to win it 3 seasons back to back, 7, 8, and then 9. For Manchester City to go ahead and better that, it is something new in football that we are seeing right now. This domination from Pep Guardiola and his men is something that as neutral you will have to admire, because the brand of football that they've played, you really don't see a lot of clubs in Europe coming close to the kind of football Manchester City are playing at the moment, or have been playing for a few years now. They won the treble last year, were looking good for a treble this year as well. Still in line for a double. I hope Manchester United go ahead and do something which they didn't do last year, which is lose in the final of the FA Cup. I hope it's not a repetition of that all over again. But it does hurt. It does hurt quite a lot as Manchester United to be seeing City do a treble, then win the treble, then be in the gunning for a treble next year as well. Win the Premier League, looking at an FA Cup win as well. Again, at a double this year. It's kudos to the men in blue. It's kudos to the citizens and Pep Guardiola. Had it not been for Pep Guardiola, Manchester City wouldn't have been that dominant side in this decade that we've seen so far.
Absolutely. And one thing which is really separating them from the pack is their relentlessness, and I also would say the ability to kick into gear when it really matters. What is it that now we've seen back-to-back seasons with Arsenal? They always start off very well, but come the crunch moments of the season when you need to be ensuring that results go your way to keep the other team at bay, then they'll start dropping points. And this time around, you can't even say that Arsenal dropped points to the big teams. Last year, I think they lost both games to City. This time around,
they drew one, lost won the other one, 1-1
and one draw. So that means they picked up 4 out of a possible 6 points against the City.
Champions.
Very good. The problem was they then dropped points to teams like, they dropped points to Chelsea early in the season. It was 2-2. And that was a game, by the way, they were destined to lose if not for Chelsea absolutely throwing it away. They dropped points to Fulham. So there's a lot of teams that they drop points to where you're thinking, hang on, what just happened there? There was a chance they were drawing today as well against Everton. So it really was a very close-knit thing. And unfortunately with this Arsenal team, yes, great team, but they always tend to start off very good and then kind of taper.
But did they do the kind of, and I hate using the word, but did they do the kind of bottle job that many people thought they would do? To be fair to Arsenal,
not really.
Let's accept the fact that, not until too long back was this a triangular race. Not until too long back.
And Liverpool only dropped out like 2 games back.
Exactly. And when you were looking at the fixtures for all 3 teams, Arsenal hands down had the toughest run in. Having said that, when you now look at the number of points that they've picked and dropped, it's not a lot of points that they've dropped. You were looking at them dropping points on multiple occasions, but they didn't. So credit goes to Arsenal as well for giving. And I was looking at some numbers as well with the amount of points that Arsenal have now finished, 89. In fact, a decade back, Manchester United won the league a little over a decade back with those many points.
It reminds me of what happened with Liverpool also. 1 and 2 points difference when they were losing out by. They were finishing with points, finished in the 90s. In the mid-2000s, that was enough to guarantee you a title by some distance. So it's actually just been full credit to a Manchester City side that have redefined the way the standards work when it comes to the consistency and intensity required. Having said that, and I know I'm going to bring this up,
and by the way, for Arsenal to finish with the same goal difference as Manchester City, by the way, to match Manchester City when it comes to attacking, when it comes to goal scoring, there's not a lot of teams in Europe that can do that. And you don't expect Arsenal to be doing that. But the kind of form that Arsenal have shown this whole year, Saka stepping up, Trossard from the left, Martinelli, Odegaard, and then towards the end of the season, you had a Kai Havertz, former Chelsea man, also step up. Absolutely. Everything did come together for Arsenal. Declan Rice, you had question marks over him as well. Remember, his contributions have played a part as well. Remember, him scoring crucial goals. When United lost 3-1 to Arsenal, it was his goal in the dying stage, I think 89th minute, that he scored that crucial second goal, which was then followed up by a third goal as well. But he too gelled very well in the first season that he played. So you had question marks around so many of these players at times. But Arsenal, I'd say a little improvement from what you saw from them last year. They couldn't cope with the pressure last year. It's just that, for Arsenal, it's unfortunate in many ways that they were up against a juggernaut in Manchester City, who was just so good that they didn't drop points. And Ortega, now when you see how big that save from Ortega was just about a few days back, that puts everything so very well into perspective, because Arsenal could then have won the league with 1 point, even had City won today's match.
Absolutely. But when it comes to the City side, I mean, let's be fair, it's impossible to ignore that one big glaring elephant in the room when it comes to, of course, those 115 charges. Now, let's put it this way. If you think it wasn't on the mind of the Premier League, then let me tell you this. Premier League CEO Richard Masters was not in attendance at the Etihad. He instead chose to go to the Arsenal Stadium, which was, I think, was being played in the Emirates. Emirates. And the reason for this was to avoid a potential awkward situation like it happened last season, where he was handing over the trophy to a team that had all those charges hanging over. Now, there is reportedly been a court date set, and we would potentially be hearing what the result of that will be whenever that happens. But I mean, is there a big asterisk? It's an obvious question for me. Yeah, there is. Especially in an era where there has been so much talk about financial fair play, regulating, ensuring that
points being docked this very year.
Exactly, profit and sustainability.
Exactly. Nottingham Forest. Exactly. You are now seeing clubs, and not just here, you seeing other clubs in other leagues as well being penalized. Juventus, let's not forget what happened with them as well.
They cooked the books multiple times, and they were given UEFA punishment.
Exactly. Look at Barcelona for everything that's gone wrong. Yes, no points deducted as of now,
but they're fearing the
they are facing the repercussions of breaching FFP for years and years now. Even right now, while they've got a new stadium being constructed, their books are in bad shape now.
It's terrible. And then to see that City essentially got away with what is or what can be considered financial doping, wherein they're inflating the cost of sponsors because they're coming from their own state sources. It doesn't sit very well with a lot of clubs.
See, there's certainly something murky over there. Those many charges, there is no way, absolutely.
There's no smoke without fire, and this, it seems to be too much smoke.
And there are too many clubs now that are treading the way that Manchester City are, or treading on the same road that Manchester City are right now. Remember, they're not the only ones who have wealthy owners right now. Let's not forget a PSG as well, where there's state money being involved as well. So it's going to happen more and more, and the more it becomes,
United,
the more it falls. The more it falls into political forces, the more it falls, or ends up going into that realm, the more murky things become, and more, the dirtier football becomes. Simple as that. And the gulf widens. The gulf widens.
It's no longer a fair playing field, because you can't look at it and say that, listen, what we're competing against, yes, excellent in terms of how they use their resources, but those resources themselves, the way that it was channeled was, I mean, there is potential fraud involved.
Nothing on the players over here.
Yeah, nothing on the players, nothing on the manager.
But the way that the organizations featuring, and this will go down, not just for Manchester City, but for other clubs as well. Pretty sure, it's not going to be easy for PSG to justify so many of the things that they've done as well.
Absolutely.
Chelsea also, by the way, were
facing that. You ended up getting sold because of the war.
Exactly. So many of these things happening, but on the outside, while these are issues that we may talk about, does the football fan really care about all of that? So. I really don't think so. So does
certain who do, but
legacy get tainted? I doubt.
It will once, if it reaches a point where there's a punishment meted out, then no doubt.
The title getting rescinded, I don't see that happening. It'd be too big a step.
But I think there will definitely be big steps taken, assuming we get to that hearing. Anyway, these are our thoughts on the entire process. You guys can let us know what exactly it is you feel about City's dominance, good, bad. Are you a fan? What do you think about the charges hanging against them? Share some commiserations for Arsenal as well. They did pretty well, unfortunately falling short for the second season on the trot. And don't forget, like, share, subscribe, tap that bell. Follow us across social media platforms. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook is where else you can find us. And stay tuned. Plenty more coming your way throughout this week. Very busy week coming up. Right now, though, from Harshit and me, it is goodbye.